The storm arrived faster than anyone expected. One minute, Daniel was sitting beside his small campsite, watching clouds gather beyond the trees. The next, powerful wind tore through the valley, snapping branches and sending rain across the clearing. Before he could react, his tent lifted completely and disappeared into darkness. Daniel chased it for several yards, but the wind carried it farther down the slope. When he finally stopped, he was soaked, breathless, and laughing despite himself. His sleeping bag was ruined, his supplies were scattered, and the nearest road was miles away. Then someone called his name from behind. It was Claire, another camper he had met that afternoon. She stood beneath a waterproof jacket, holding a flashlight and looking concerned. She had watched the storm destroy his campsite from across the clearing. Daniel tried to joke about his terrible luck, but Claire immediately told him he needed shelter. She pointed toward her larger tent, which remained firmly anchored between several trees. Daniel hesitated. He didn't want to invade her space or make the situation uncomfortable. Claire seemed to understand his hesitation. With a gentle smile, she said, "Stay in mine." Daniel looked at her and asked, "Are you sure?" Claire nodded with a smile. "Absolutely. There is enough room, and neither of us should spend the night outside." Daniel thanked her and gathered whatever belongings he could find. Together, they returned to her campsite while rain continued pounding the forest. The darkness made every step feel strangely uncertain. Inside Claire's tent, everything felt surprisingly peaceful. A small lantern illuminated 2 sleeping bags, dry blankets, and neatly organized supplies. Daniel sat near the entrance while Claire prepared warm drinks. They listened to the storm surrounding them, grateful that the sturdy shelter remained firmly secured against the relentless wind. Daniel apologized again for taking up her space. Claire laughed and said he was making the situation more awkward than necessary. She reminded him that emergencies were exactly when people should help one another. Daniel smiled, realizing that her kindness felt genuine, without hidden expectations or uncomfortable conditions. As the hours passed, they talked about how they had ended up camping alone. Daniel explained that he had needed time away from work and responsibilities. Claire said she had come because she wanted quiet after a difficult month. Neither expected to meet anyone, much less share shelter during a storm. Their conversation gradually became more personal. Claire spoke about feeling exhausted from constantly pretending everything was fine. Daniel admitted that he often did the same. They discovered that both had been carrying worries they rarely discussed. The storm outside seemed to create a strange space where honesty felt easier. A loud crack suddenly echoed through the forest, followed by a brief silence. Claire instinctively moved closer to the center of the tent. Daniel asked whether she was frightened. She nodded honestly. He reassured her that they were safe, and Claire smiled, saying she felt safer knowing someone was there. Daniel noticed how naturally they supported each other. There was no dramatic confession or sudden romance, only quiet companionship. They shared stories, laughed about embarrassing experiences, and listened whenever the other needed to speak. The night became less about the storm and more about 2 strangers discovering unexpected comfort together. Around midnight, the rain became even heavier. Water streamed down the tent walls, but the shelter remained secure. Claire checked the ropes while Daniel held the lantern. When they finished, she thanked him for helping. He told her she had already done much more by giving him somewhere safe. Claire looked at him thoughtfully and said she believed kindness should never be measured. Daniel understood exactly what she meant. Sometimes people needed help without owing anything afterward. Her words stayed with him. He realized how rare it was to meet someone who could make generosity feel completely natural. Eventually, exhaustion replaced their nervousness. They settled into separate sleeping bags with comfortable distance between them. Claire wished him good night, and Daniel thanked her again. Before closing his eyes, he heard her quietly say that she was glad his tent had blown away, even though the thought sounded strange. Daniel laughed softly and asked why she would possibly say that. Claire explained that without the accident, They probably would have spent the trip barely speaking. The storm had forced them into an unexpected conversation. Daniel admitted she was right. Some difficult moments, he realized, could reveal surprisingly beautiful possibilities. By morning, the storm had disappeared. Sunlight entered through the tent opening, revealing a forest covered in sparkling water. Branches and leaves were scattered everywhere, but the campsite remained intact. Daniel stepped outside and found his tent caught against a distant tree. It was damaged beyond easy repair. Claire helped him collect his remaining belongings. They worked together quietly, occasionally laughing when they discovered something unexpected. Daniel thanked her for saving his night. Claire smiled and said she hoped he would remember that asking for help was not a weakness. Sometimes accepting kindness required courage, too. Before leaving, Daniel asked whether they could stay in touch after the trip. Claire smiled immediately and said she had been hoping he would ask. They exchanged numbers and promised to meet again somewhere with less dramatic weather. Their adventure had started with a ruined tent, but ended with something unexpectedly meaningful. Weeks later, Daniel still remembered that storm whenever rain touched his windows. He remembered Claire's calm voice, the warm lantern, and her simple invitation to stay. Their friendship grew naturally afterward, built on honesty and mutual respect. Neither rushed anything because they both understood that meaningful connections deserved time. Sometimes life takes away the plans we carefully make and replaces them with moments we never expected. Daniel lost his tent that night, but he gained a friendship that changed his perspective. Claire's simple smile taught him something unforgettable. When the storm arrives, the right person may simply open the door.